What's the best way to learn English? I get this question all the time, and unfortunately, there is no black and white answer to this question. However, in today's lesson, we are going to look at 10 very common ways of learning English, and we're going to discuss the pros and cons of each to help you decide what the best way for you to learn English is. Let's go. All right, so first of all, in order to decide what the best way for you to learn English is, you need to assess or look at your life and your reality. There's a few things that you need to consider. First of all, you need to be clear on your learning goals. Are you learning English to study, to move abroad, to improve your professional life? Are you learning English for social reasons? It's really important that you are crystal clear on your learning goals. Next, you need to be aware of your learning style. So, do you learn best through interaction? Do you learn best on your own? Do you learn best in a traditional classroom setting? Ask yourself, in what situations do I learn best? Next, you need to look at your resources, the resources that are available to you, and any limitations that you might have. So this means you need to think about things like your available time, your schedule, your budget, your access to transportation, practical things that might limit you and the resources that you have available to you when it comes to learning. You also need to be flexible and open to trying different things, different ways of learning. This is very important and something that a lot of people kind of forget about or don't think about at all. You also need to be open to getting some support. There's nothing wrong with asking for help from your peers, tutors, teachers, getting support when you need it, getting direction when you feel lost. This is also part of the learning process. I know that self-study has become very popular and it's a fantastic tool that people have for learning, not only learning English, learning pretty much anything. However, sometimes we get lost. We need some structure. We need someone to help us on our journey, on our path, and make sure that we're going in the right direction. So don't be afraid to get some support or get some help. And finally, you need to consider the pros and cons of each learning method that you are using, and that is what we are doing today. First up, let's talk about traditional group classes, where you go to a physical classroom and you learn in a group the way that you did in school. Let's start off with the pros or the benefits of this method. In traditional classes, you have structure, you have lesson plans, you have clear guidance from your teacher. Generally, traditional classroom settings are interactive, they are social, you have this sense of teamwork and community. And this is something that makes classes fun as well. You should also have qualified, knowledgeable professional teachers, hopefully. And you also have the chance to get immediate feedback and correction in traditional classes. And all of these elements put together can make traditional classes quite motivating for a lot of people. As well, these days group classes can be quite affordable depending on where you live in the world, of course. Now for the cons or the drawbacks of traditional group classes. First of all, the schedule might be inconvenient for you and you might not always be able to make the class. If you have to work, if you have kids, if you're busy, it's not possible for everyone. As well, you cannot control the pace or the speed or the content that is being used or studied in class. Of course, that's up to the teacher, and the speed or pace usually depends on the level, the overall or average level of the group. In some cases, the classes might simply be too big or too large. With too many people, you don't always have the chance to get correction, feedback, and as much interaction with your classmates or your teacher as you might like. Group classes can be expensive and they might be too far away, so just not practical for you depending on where you live in the world. Next up is a very popular choice these days, and that is learning English through online courses or apps. Now, one of the biggest pros with this one is the flexibility. You can learn anywhere at any time as long as you have internet access generally. So this is very accessible for a lot of people. As well, you have the freedom to learn at your own pace. So you can study as much or as little as you like every day and depending on your schedule. Nowadays, you have such a wide range of courses and apps to choose from. So there's pretty much something for everyone, for every level, for every interest. And another big pro is that online courses, especially self-study courses, are generally a lot more affordable than traditional classes. Now, when it comes to cons, generally there is little or sometimes no interaction with your classmates or even your teacher if the course is self-study, all right? And this might be important for a lot of people. Now, I said that having a lot of options is a pro, but it's also a con because sometimes when you have too many choices, you're lost. You don't know what to choose. You don't know what's right for you. You're overwhelmed with information. You're overwhelmed with selection. And sometimes that stops you from doing anything at all. A lot of times people spend days and weeks searching for the right course or the right path or the right thing to do. And there's just so many options, so much information. They just get frustrated and don't do anything. And another con is that you need to have self-discipline. And you need to be consistent. You need to be extremely disciplined with yourself. In a traditional class, you have your teacher encouraging you, guiding you every step of the way. Whereas when you're studying on your own, you are responsible for that. You need to stay motivated. You need to stay dedicated. You need to be disciplined. You need to be consistent. You need to keep going. Even on days when you don't feel like it, you don't want to, right? You just have to do it anyway. I myself have done online courses, and like I said, there are pros, there are cons, and this is one of the cons that can be challenging. When you're tired, you don't want to do it, you're not in the mood for it, and you have to do it anyway. So this is a really, really big one. You do have to be self-aware and be honest with yourself. Not everyone is capable of following a program on their own, and they do need a coach or a teacher to support them. Next up, let's talk about one-to-one classes or private lessons with a teacher. So one of the biggest benefits is that the classes are personalized. They're personalized for you according to your levels, according to your goals, according to your weak areas. And that is a huge selling point, a huge pro for one-to-one classes. Also, you can get immediate feedback and guidance. So any questions you have will be answered right away. Any correction or mistakes that you make can also be addressed immediately. In one-to-one classes, you can also ask as many questions as you like. Generally with private lessons, the scheduling is a little bit more flexible as well. So group classes have a fixed schedule, and if you can't make it, you can't make it. But with one-to-one classes, most of the time you can coordinate the schedule along with your teacher. You can also focus more on your weak areas, and you have clear instructions and clear directions. And all of these pros together will lead to faster improvement. A lot of people want to improve their English fast. They want to speak English right now. And one-to-one lessons offers a higher chance of you improving quicker than some of the other options. Now, as for the cons, one of the biggest ones is generally the cost. Obviously, one-to-one lessons, since they are so personalized and there's so much focus on you, your improvement is faster, the lessons are customized, the cost is generally going to be higher than in a group class. Another challenge is actually finding the right teacher. Not every learner clicks with every teacher. There might be a personality clash, you might not like the teacher's style, or whatever the case may be. So it can be also hard to find yourself the right teacher if you don't have one already. And sometimes, even though you have a flexible schedule, you might also have some challenges with your scheduling. If you have a teacher who lives in a different country or a different time zone, you might run into some challenges there. And another drawback is that you have little or no interaction with other English learners. And I think that having interaction with other English learners, being able to practice with people who are experiencing the same learning process as you, who are growing the same way as you, is such a benefit. So in one-to-one classes, you don't have this. Although you do have a lot more interaction with the teacher, it's very nice to have that interaction with your peers as well. Another option is exchange programs. Now, exchange programs are basically where you have someone who speaks another language. For example, you speak Spanish and I speak English, okay? And we basically exchange our languages. So I teach you English and you teach me Spanish. Let's talk about the pros. Language exchanges are a really cool opportunity for cultural exchange and to meet new people who are different from you. They can also be very affordable and in some cases totally free. Language exchanges allow you to build relationships, to socialize, and to have fun. Now for the cons. It can be hard to find a language exchange partner. As well, when you do find a partner, they might not be on the same level as you. And it can also be difficult to plan and manage your schedule, especially if your language exchange partner lives overseas or in a different country. With language exchanges, it's generally you and the other person. So there might be kind of a lack of structure, a lack of consistency, and sometimes a lack of motivation. One person might be much more motivated than the other. Another popular option for learning English is study abroad programs. And this is literally where you go to an English-speaking country to study and learn and practice English. Now, there are many pros here. First of all, you have intensive exposure to the language with native speakers in lots of different real life situations. So you not only get to interact with English in the classroom with your classmates and your teachers, but you get to use English outside in the real world at restaurants and social situations, at the bank, in lots and lots of different cases. And as a result of this, you're going to learn English much faster because you're totally immersed in the language. You get to learn real life communication skills. You get to learn about different cultures, meet new people. You get to network, you get to make new friends, you get to create new opportunities for yourself. You also get to experience life in a different country, and in some cases, you have the chance to actually stay in that country and move overseas. Now for the cons, of course, one of the biggest one is this is a very expensive option and therefore not an option for everyone. Now, of course, in a perfect world, this would be an option for everyone. Unfortunately, it's just not the case. As well, you have to spend a lot of time away from your family, your friends, your life, work, or studies, depending on where you are in life right now. Sometimes you can't find the right program or you just don't know where to start. And sometimes studying abroad can be overwhelming and you might experience culture shock. I have met people who have tried to study abroad and they weren't ready, and it was very overwhelming for them and they ended up leaving and going back home. This is not the majority. A majority of the people end up loving a study abroad experience. I have taught a lot of English learners in different countries who have studied overseas to learn, and generally they have such a rich and unique and valuable experience. So if you ever have the opportunity to go overseas and study a language, I do highly recommend it. Although, of course, it is expensive, it's not accessible for everyone, it's not an option or a reality for everyone. All right, next up, another option that's becoming more popular these days or more common these days is studying on your own using different resources. So this could be using books, using TV shows, using a course, just trying to learn English in general on your own. Now, what are the pros? First of all, you can control the pace, you can control the schedule, and you're fully in control of the content that you use. Therefore, you can choose material and choose content that's actually interesting and engaging for you. Sometimes in a classroom, you might find the material boring and there's nothing you can do about it. But when you're in control, you get to pick everything. As well, this option is free or can be completely free because there is access to so many countless free English resources on the internet. So as long as you have the internet, this is a free option for most people. Now for the cons. You need to, again, be very, very disciplined. You need to be extremely disciplined, very consistent, very motivated, very driven, very organized, and not everyone has these qualities. As well, you don't have feedback, so you don't really know where you're going wrong, and you don't necessarily know how to fix your mistakes. You might not even know that you're making mistakes in the first place. A lot of times when we try to learn things on our own, we might not be taking the best approach, and we might not be learning in an effective way. And therefore, we are not maximizing our time. Learning on your own can also be very overwhelming. You might feel like you're trying so hard, but you're not making the progress that you want to. So basically, you have kind of a lack of guidance here. So even though it's free, you have access to materials, your approach might not be the right approach. You might not be choosing the right materials. You might not know how to learn on your own if you've never done it before. So this is not for everyone. It can be effective for people who know how to learn, know how to study. And I do see the appeal of this one because it's free, and now with technology, we can do so much on our own. But keep in mind the cons if this is an approach you want to take. Another option these days for learning English is language clubs or meetup groups. So some kind of group to meet and learn a language together, but not an organized traditional class. It's more a group of people who have arranged to meet and practice or learn English together. Now, some of the pros: you get to interact with people, you get to socialize, you get to meet new people, and you get encouragement from other English learners who understand what you're going through and are in the same boat as you. As well, this type of group is generally very low cost or free. I have seen this quite a bit in Dubai. Another cool thing is that you get to do different activities, you get to go to different events. So there's a really fun element to language groups like this. Now, when it comes to cons, depending on the people in the group, the quality of practice that you're getting might not be the best. Let's say that the other people in the group have a lower level than you, or they're not as consistent as you, or they're not as serious as you, and they're just there for fun, but like they kind of switch back to their own native language. They're not really too serious about English. The quality of your practice will obviously be affected by that. So it depends on the people in the group. You can get a really great group, but sometimes you don't. Another con is that this approach is not available in every area. So depending on where you live, it might be really hard to find a group of people who want to practice English. This is more common in big cities like Dubai, where I live now. Another drawback is that there is no real structure here. It's just free practice, which can be good for certain levels, but you do need this foundation of English before you engage in free practice and open conversation. And another one is that you just might not like the people. So you might be really excited about joining a language group. You join and you don't get along with the people, and it just kind of ruins the experience for you. So it's hit and miss with language groups. Another approach is just watching TV and movies. And I have met people, I've had students who have learned English fully through watching television and movies, which is pretty amazing. So some of the pros: first of all, of course, it's entertaining, engaging, it's fun. TV and movies are great for listening practice to help improve your natural pronunciation. Fantastic for vocabulary. You also get to practice listening to authentic English accents and English pronunciation, and lots of different accents, not just one. Television and movies have visuals. So even if you don't understand every single word, the visuals help us to understand what's going on. So that visual connection to what you're hearing makes this much smoother and much easier than, let's say, listening to someone speak. And another big one is the flexibility. It's very easy to fit TV shows and movies into your schedule. You can even watch them while you commute. If you take the train or the metro or the subway to work, you can watch a program on your way to work. You can watch during breakfast or on your lunch break. So flexibility is a big one here. And of course, generally it's free or very low cost. For example, if you pay for a monthly subscription like Netflix, you're paying for it, but it's generally quite affordable. And as for the cons, TV shows and movies are usually not for beginner levels, so lower levels who are trying to learn English. Television shows and movies are quite advanced and can be quite challenging and not efficient, not productive. And with this one, you also have no speaking practice. You can use TV shows and movies and do some shadowing exercises. However, you don't have interactive speaking practice. As well, some people rely or depend too much on subtitles in their own language. Sometimes they think, okay, this show is hard or this accent is hard. I'm just going to use the subtitles for a little bit, but we naturally depend on subtitles and text when they're on the screen. So if you do need subtitles, it's okay as long as you use them in English, not in your native language. And of course, with this one, you don't have any feedback. You're learning, you have a lot of input, but you don't get to produce a lot with the language or get feedback or sort of interact with the language. It's a lot of input, a lot of information going in, but not too much practice coming out. Next up, we have reading English books and articles and blogs, just general reading. Now, reading is fantastic for building vocabulary in any language, including English. It also helps you to see the correct use of grammatical structures, so it's going to help you with your grammar. And reading will help with your overall comprehension skills and your understanding of English. You also get to learn different writing styles, read about different topics, and explore different genres. And reading is something you can do at your own pace and on your own time. Reading is a fantastic way to learn about different cultures as well, and to learn more about things that you need to know and things that you're interested in. Now for the cons. Reading can be difficult for people with a lower level of English or beginners. Again, generally people read in their head, not out loud. And if you do that, you don't have any speaking or pronunciation practice. Reading also focuses on one main skill, so you don't get to practice all of your skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking, pronunciation, and so on. Sometimes you might just not be sure what to read. You don't know what material is appropriate, what material is right for your level. And sometimes people don't like reading. They just find it boring. And with reading, for those who do like it, that's great, but it's also very easy to get stuck in your comfort zone and to learn English fully through reading. And here again, you have a lot of input, you have a lot of information going in, but not a lot of practice coming out with reading. So reading is great, and I absolutely recommend it for everyone. I just don't recommend it as the primary way of learning English or the only way of learning English. It is one very effective method of learning, but not the only one. And finally, we have just practicing by talking to people, talking to native English speakers specifically. So some of the pros. First of all, you get to practice authentic English, which is fantastic. You get to work on your fluency, your accuracy. You get to hear native English pronunciation and different accents as well. With native speakers, you're going to hear lots of vocabulary, idioms, expressions. You also get to exchange your culture, meet new people, network. And you can build your confidence in real life situations to help you communicate in the real world. So definitely lots and lots of pros to this one. But of course, there are some cons as well. It might be difficult for you to find native English speakers depending on where you live, depending on who you know, and so on. It might also be difficult to find people who are compatible with you, people you get along with. So practicing with native English speakers is basically practicing with friends. Now, practicing through speaking and conversations is a free form of practice. So there is not really a clear structure, which is okay for some people and okay for higher levels and more confident speakers. But for lower levels, it's quite challenging when there's no real structure. especially if you're talking in a group or you're having a discussion. Ideas are like flying all over the place, and people will bounce ideas off of each other. And it can be quite easy to get lost in a group discussion or a group conversation with native speakers, again, depending on your level. And for a lot of English learners, this approach can be very intimidating and overwhelming, unfortunately. Now, every single one of the methods we talked about today has advantages and disadvantages, of course. And it's up to you to find the most effective approach or approaches. You don't have to pick just one of these, okay? Keep that in mind. You can use different approaches. You need to be open, but you do need to think about your individual circumstances, your individual goals, and your reality. So like I said, usually more than one approach works best. And the cool thing about being an adult English learner is that you are in full control of your learning journey. You don't have to stick to just one. You need to try different ones out, consider the pros and cons, see what works best. Education has come such a long way since we were kids, which is a really, really great thing. So have a think about these. Come revisit this lesson whenever you need to, and let me know in the comments which are the best or most effective learning methods for you. If you want to learn more about my classes and my courses, you can find all that information in the description down below. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments as well. And if you enjoyed this lesson and learned something new, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps the channel to grow and reach more English learners around the world. Thank you for watching, learning, and spending time with me today. I will see you soon in another one.